I almost said 안녕하세요 instead of 다자하. 다자하, hi guys, it's Shanae and welcome back to my channel. And today I am continuing my read along for ErHa. And yeah, I am so sorry I'm so late. We are not gonna waste a lot of time. If you're new here, hi, I'm Janae. I read anime, and currently we're reading ErHa, aka The Husky and His White Cat Shizun. Those words almost came out in the wrong order. This is a fantastic start to live. Sorry, guys. Hi. If you're new here, I have tea here with me. I took a break on the hour. My voice sounds kind of problematic. I think I might be catching a cold, which should not be happening in the middle of summer, but our weather has been very weird. So, yeah, that's the thing. So I have tea here with me to just try and smooth things out. I take a 10-minute break on the hour. I think I mentioned that. And yeah, that's more or less it. Um, Let me quickly check for you where we are at for those who want to follow along with their actual novels. Chapter 3. Okay, right. So we were on chapter 191, Shizun, Shumeng, and I, dot, dot, dot. Um, as far as I remember, we ended with Moran going early to stand guard while Chuaning was meditating or like cultivating, sorry. Um, so yeah, we had a lot of sex scenes. It was challenging to read, and I'm hoping that we will get a little bit of a, well, not sex scenes, but like, you know, um, sexual scenes, shall we say. And yeah, I'm hoping we will get a little bit of a breather this read along because that was a lot. Weirdly enough, I had quite a few people coming into some of the other live streams that I have up as well. So I don't know how people are finding them, but you know, it's great still. Like, yeah, the comments are more or less just a lot of people being surprised by my ability to read those scenes, and I concur as well. I don't know how it happens. I don't want to think about it. Um, yeah, no, like, feel free. It was very challenging and awkward. So anyway, let's just jump in. Other than Chuaning, the one most important to Moran was Shimei. Moran had once thought that what he felt for Shimei was love, then found it wasn't so. But his intent to care for and cherish him had never changed. Even though he couldn't shake the feeling that Shimei was slowly becoming a stranger, that this beautiful man seemed to be someone entirely different from the youth in his memories. And even though Shimei had only brought him that first bowl of wontons on Chuaning's orders, regardless, Shimingjing was still Shimingjing. He was the companion who reached out with a small smile to Moran when he was consumed by darkness and disappointment. The Shishong who comforted Moran when he was lonely and upset. Come to think of it, Shumei was also an orphan. He had no family in the world, though Shumeng was friendly with Shumei, he was proud and arrogant. In all these years, Shumei had never called him by name, only respectfully using the title Young Master. The only one who could really claim to be a friend to Shumei was Moran himself. Look, we know about all the theories I have regarding Shumei, and also obviously I don't want Shumei to come between Moran and Chuaning. But looking at it from this perspective, you've been a horrible friend to Shimei, I feel. And yet he'd hurt him. Hiding in the bamboo forest, Shimon watched for a long time with his arms crossed. Moran stood unmoving, fiddling with the silver comb as if there was much on his mind. After waiting the better part of an hour with nothing to show for it, Shimon started to wonder if he was an idiot. What the hell was he thinking? How could he suspect Shizun and Moran were close in that way? Was his brain broken? The longer he stood, the more awkward he felt, and the less he could justify his actions. At last, Shimon turned to leave. These two martial siblings were cut from the same cloth. Shimon made the exact same mistake as Moran. He relaxed and forgot to step with care. Moran leapt to his feet, voice ringing through the gauze hangings. Who's there? Under the moonlight, Shimon reluctantly showed himself, eyes evasive. He cleared his throat. Moran said, "What are you doing here?" Double standards much? Shimon couldn't make himself meet Moran's eyes. He spoke with such conviction, but he looked left and right, his cheek reddening. I just wanted to see Shizun, too. Moran abruptly realized that Shimon must have followed him. He froze for a moment, then adjusted his expression before Shimon could notice. Since you're here, why don't you take a seat? Shimon did not refuse. He joined Moran in the bamboo pavilion. Tea or wine? Moran asked. Tea, Shimon replied. Wine will get me drunk. There was both tea and wine on the table. Moran set a little pot of red clay over the fire. In the darkness, its light flickered over his chiseled features. He put the 8 treasures tea in the pot, then placed it on the stove. The two cousins, one sitting on the bench, one leaning against the pillar, waited for the water to boil. Why did you come so early? Shimon asked. Shimei should have stayed till midnight. I didn't have anything else to do, so why not? Moran smiled. Didn't you do the same? Thinking about it, Shimon had to agree. Like him, Moran was probably worried about Shizun. This cousin of his had changed after the battle at the Heavenly Rift. After all these years, he was nothing like that churlish, I've never heard that word, churlish youth of the past. The disciple Chuaning saved at the cost of his own life had finally grown into a proper young man. Are you still gonna feel that way once you discover their relationship? Because I'm pretty sure you will somehow find a way to accuse Moran of robbing Chuaning of his purity or something. I don't know. And fell silent in a moment, then smiled. What's up? Moran asked. Nothing. I was just thinking about the last time Shizun was in seclusion. He was so angry at Shizun back then. During those 10 days, you only took a single glance at him before saying you weren't skilled enough to care for him and running off to help Dad in the library. I held a grudge against you for that. I never thought you'd change so much in 7 years. Moran was quiet. Eventually he said, everyone changes. If you could do it over, would you still run off? What do you think? Shimon thought seriously. We'd probably try and stay with Shizun all 10 days. Eyes downcast, Moran laughed. Mm. What do you think you're laughing at? Shimon shifted, placing a foot on the bench and an elbow on his knee. He let his head fall back, glancing sidelong at his cousin. Now both of us feel the same about Shizun. You hope? I mean, we know that's not true, but you hope. Much for mine. Moran lowered his eyes. Hmm. Shimon squinted at him, then raised his eyes to the bells hanging from the corners of the eaves. That's good. Back when Shizun passed, I resent so much that your life was saved at the cost of his. But now that I look at it, you're not without a conscience. Moran didn't know how to respond, so he again went, hmm. The bells tinkled in the breeze. After some silence, Shimon found himself turning to Moran. His eyes sparkled, and his brows drew low as he said, um, I actually have a question for you. Go ahead. Why do I have a feeling those bowels can somehow like detect lies? I don't think like that feels like such a ridiculous idea, but I just wonder why the attention is being brought to the bells, if it's just for the ambiance's sake or if there's more to it. Tell me the truth. That day in the backwoods, were you Ran knew Shimon had wanted to ask this question for a long time. He danced around it, but couldn't escape it, and then Ran waited for Shimon to continue. But after hemming and hawing for half an age, his face pinkened and paled in turns. Shimon still couldn't get the words out. He watched Moran carefully as he said, were you two really looking for an osmosis rice cake spirit? I mean, he's essentially asking the same thing, but because he's asking it so vaguely, Moran can still kind of circumvent it a little bit, I feel. The water in the teapot came to boil, sending wisps of steam spiraling into the cold night air. They locked gazes. Shimon's pupils were blazing, spitting fire, whereas Moran's black eyes were as still as an old well, deep and unfathomable. Tea's ready. Shimon grabbed his arm, staring into his eyes. Were you two really looking for an osmosis rice cake spirit? Moran extracted himself from Shimon's hold and picked up the pot on the table. He poured 2 cups, then looked up. If we weren't looking for a rice cake spirit, what could we be doing? You, Shizun wouldn't lie to you. Even if you don't believe me, you should at least believe him. Oh, he's relying on a fallacy, my goodness. Shimon was like a little snake caught by the throats. The hand resting on his knee tightened and he ducked his head. I do believe him. Tiny Phoenix is not as oblivious as he probably wishes he was. It's gonna hurt when he finds out. Yeah, no, he's struggling for sure because I think he wants to be in denial, but at the same time, he can't be. And have some tea, Moran sighed. Why are you always overthinking? He lowered his eyes to blow at the piping hot cup. Wreathed in the steam, his face was like a mirage, handsome yet hazy, impossible to bring into focus. Late Treasure's tea was warm and rich. Shimon savored it, letting its comforting heat soothe the pounding of his heart. The cup was still warm. Steam rose from its center. Head down, Shimon murmured half to Moran and half to himself. I overthink because I care about him so much. Really, the slightest rustle and I know, Moran said. I'm the same way. Shimon turned to look at him. Leaning back against the pillar with his unfinished tea, Moran took another sip. Earlier, I had a misunderstanding with Shimei for the same reason. At least you're better off than me, not so impulsive. Shimon's curiosity was piqued. No wonder Shimei didn't say much before he left. What happened? Doesn't matter. Moran grimaced. I'm even more of an overthinker than you. I mean, I think you could stand to overthink a little bit more in some cases. Shimon wrinkled his nose. He hasn't had it easy. people will eat children during a famine if they get desperate enough. Damn! Ugh! Okay. If Dad hadn't rescued him, he'd have probably ended up as meat in a stew. Shmei's always been good to you, so you'd better not bully him. Moran said. I know. Something just set me off earlier. It won't happen again. The two sat in the pavilion, watching over Chuaning as they chatted. It was a strange experience. Moran gazed at Chumong's handsome, arrogant face in the moonlight. This was the same man who'd carved a hole in his chest in a past life, then met him with tears and blood in every subsequent encounter. He had never expected they could talk like this, so calmly. The moonbeams streamed down on the lotus pond as they steeped tea and warmed wine. Yes, wine. They had finished the tea, but Shimon wasn't ready to leave. Moran heated a pot and poured out a few cups, just a small accompaniment to their conversation. It was no harm as long as they didn't get drunk. I don't trust you guys, and hasn't like I think I'm confusing the wine for the spice, but along with giving up spice, has Moran also given up drinking? So wouldn't he be more susceptible to getting drunk than um his earlier years, or am I like just confusing the two? He seemed to have overestimated Shumeng's tolerance. Between Chuaning and his three disciples, Chuaning could down 1,000 cups. Ran could equip himself respectably, and Shumei was a lightweight. But Shumeng was utterly hopeless. Two scant cups of pear blossom wine saw him dizzy and incoherent. Weary of causing a disaster, Moran hastily removed the wine from the table. Shimon was a little tipsy, but he wasn't that far gone. Good. Put it away, he chuckled, cheeks ruddy. I've had enough. Moran agreed. You should hurry back to rest. Can you walk? If not, I'll send a voice message to tell Uncle to come pick you up. Oh, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. Shimon waved him off with a grin. I can walk back by myself. I haven't forgotten the way. Skeptical, Moran extended a finger in front of Shimon's eyes. What number is this? 1. He pointed at Chuaning. Who's this? Shimon smiled. Immortal Gurgur. How Chuaning will feel being referred to as Immortal Gurgur. But it just um questionable. No, he just gave it from the spice drink. It's fun. Okay, cool. Hi guys, it's my first time joining live. Welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Immortal Gurgur. Okay. Be serious. Huh. It's Shizun. I can tell. Clutching the pillar, Shimon laughed. Moran frowned. This rascal's alcohol tolerance was getting worse every year. Still unconvinced, he pointed at himself. What about me? Take a good look. Don't try to be funny. Who am I? As Shimon stared at him, the years seemed to fold over themselves. Moran saw that New Year's Eve at Mengpo Hall, Shimon had been drunk then too. He had recognized Tremay, called Chuaning Immortal Gurgur, then burst into laughter when he looked at Moran and called him a dog. Moran stared placidly back at him. If Shimon called him a dog again, he was prepared to pin him down and beat him up before calling Xu Zhengyong to drag the little drunkard home. But Shimon only considered him for a long time, expression unreadable. In the end, his lips parted almost in a pout, as if shaping the symbol for dog once again. Moran raised a hand, ready to slap it over his mouth. Go. He froze. The eyes. Quietly, slowly, he said again. Go. Why is that cute? Why is that cute? Why does that feel so, like, hard-earned? Damn. Stunned. The word was like the sting of a wasp, a stabbing pain morphing into agony, soon numb from its venom. Something was caught in his throat. He couldn't say anything as he stared at Shimon's face, at those young, prideful, headstrong features. Moran had seen hatred, fury, and disdain on this face, but never an emotion like this. Shimon touched Longchain at his waist, inlaid with the lunar crystal Moran had sent him after risking his life taking down a great spirit beast. Without this blade, he mightn't have taken first place at the spiritual mountain competition. Without this blade, he might have ended up a nameless cultivator lost to the annals of time, the bearer of an eternal regret. That is like painfully true considering how he valued himself at the time. We're waiting. He had never properly thanked Moran for the gift for various reasons, because of his pride and because of his sense of dignity. Yet it always ate at him. Whenever he cleaned Longchen, it weighed on his heart and mind. After they had returned from Luthen sect, and Shimon had learned it was Moran who saved him from Shushuang Lin, he felt only more tormented. When he woke and heard Moran and Chuaning were missing, he'd sobbed himself hoarse. Everyone had thought he was crying for Shizun. Only Shimon knew that when he lay in his sickbed that night, clutching Long Chen and gazing into the darkness, he gasped, Go, I'm sorry. I'm fine. Where are you? Are you and Shizun okay? Moran couldn't say a thing or move a muscle. He seemed to have been rooted to the spot, stock still. Scenes from the past rushed through his mind. Session Peak in the past life, Shimon storming up the mountain alone to stand in the chill air of Wushan Hall, asking, eyes red-rimmed, what he'd done with Chuaning. What's painful about this is the more his relationships heal in the present timeline, the more he's gonna grow to regret the past timeline, I feel. So like he's inflicting pain on himself even while getting a better ending, which is painful, but at the same time it feels like justice in a sense. I don't know if I'm making sense. The Shimon had said, look back properly. When he became Emperor Taishan Jin, and Shimon joined hands with Mei Han Shi to attack him in broad daylight, Mei Han Shi cut off his escape while Shimon roared, features twisting, driving the scimitar into his chest, blood spraying. Mo Wei Shimon had said, you're beyond salvation. This world has had its fill of you. Those hateful grudges blazing furiously as they swirled around him. The day Chuaning died in this lifetime, and Shimon leaped up with a roar and pinned him to the wall, pulsing, pulse beating in his neck as he shouted like a trapped beast. How could you say he didn't save you? How could you say he didn't save you? Okay. Why? Oh my goodness. It's so cute and so painful at the same time. I hope you guys can see this properly, because it is stunning. Considering we hadn't gotten it after Moran initially gave the crystal or stone or whatever it is that's in Longchen, since we didn't get that more or less directly after that initial event, I thought that we were kind of just gonna have this distant but at least respecting each other kind of relationship for the entirety of the novel. So this is such a pleasant surprise. Okay. Okay, forever he shall be immortal Gaga now. The scene is so beautiful, Moran and Shimon being bros for real, yeah. I I didn't expect that from the chapter title, to be fair. Relationship with Shimon is getting better, the one with Shumei is getting worse. How the tables have turned, yeah. The first part of that I love, the second part of that I am very apprehensive about. Okay. Another flash of memory, appearing as a faint glow before him. Perhaps Moran had stood stiffly for too long enough for those old, blurry memories to creep up on him. He saw two youths, one with skin and bones, like an abandoned dog awaiting his next beating. He hunched anxiously at one of the tables in the disciples' quarters, sitting on a little stool with his hands tightly twisted over his knees, unmoving. He recognized himself. The other youth had a complexion pure as jade or snow, precious and proud as a peak. I've never heard that coming into his dazzling plumage. He stood, a finely wrought scimitar at his waist, and a foot propped on a nearby chair. Clear black eyes staring unblinkingly down at Moran. Mom told me to come visit you, the young Shimon muttered. You're my new cousin. He paused. Kind of pathetic, aren't you? Moran said nothing. He kept his head down, unaccustomed to such intense scrutiny. Hey, what's your name? Shimon asked. More, um, more something. Tell me. I forgot. Moran didn't answer. I'm asking you a question. Aren't you going to say something? Still no answer. Are you mute? After 3 attempts, the young Shimon burst into exasperated laughter. They say you're my cousin, but look how timid you are. You're so frail, the wind could blow you over. There's no way I have such an embarrassing go-go. What a joke. Moran hung his head lower still, silent. A blur of crimson appeared before him. It took Moran a moment to realize it was a stick of tanhuru. I don't know what that is. The hand that offered the sugar-coated hawthorn did it so roughly, the stick nearly poked him in the nose. Here, Shimon said. I can't eat this anyway. Oh, he's such a tsundere. Oh my goodness. I mean, we knew, but this is the first time I feel like we've seen it expressed toward Moran in the younger years. He had bought a box of sweets with him as well, and now tossed it carelessly on the table like a coin to a beggar. Moran could only watch in dazed shock. He thought Shimon too generous, impossibly generous. No one had ever offered him so much to eat at once, even if he begged on his knees. I. This. What? Shimon frowned. What do you mean? What are you trying to say? Can I have the whole stick? Huh? Just one berry is enough, or if you can't finish it, maybe I could. What's wrong with you? Are you a dog? You want to eat leftovers? Shimon's eyes widened, his tone one of disbelief. Of course it's all yours. The entire stick and that entire box are yours. I did not misread that. The lacquered box was beautifully crafted, golden linework depicting a scene of cranes amidst clouds. Moran had never seen an item of such luxury before. He didn't dare reach out, but his eyes fixed on the box with a look so intense, Shimon's skin prickled with goosebumps. He thought he might as well open it for Moran. The rich scents of cream and fruit and bean paste wafted out with a lift of the lid mingling under his nose. The sweets were arrayed in a neat grid of 3 by 3 for a total of 9. Some were golden brown and crisp, some were soft and delicate, while others were gleaming and fragile, wrapped in a beautiful translucent skin that offered a faint glimpse of the soft red bean paste within. Shimon spared them scarcely a glance. He pushed the box in front of Moran and said impatiently, "Go on and eat. If that's not enough, I have more. I can't finish all this, so giving it to you is perfect." The little Gongzer had a bad attitude and an unkind tone, constantly rolling his clear eyes in pompous disdain. But the desserts he offered were sweet and soft. Through the bitterness and the blood of another lifetime, that distant sweetness seemed to return to Moran's tongue. I can't cry over sweets, I can't cry over sweets. Moran gazed at Shimon's wine-flushed face beneath the moonlight, and Shimon squinted back. After a moment, Shimon laughed, so tipsy even he didn't know what he was laughing at. He let go of the pillar as if to clap Moran amiably on the shoulder, but his legs were unsteady. Stumbling, he fell into Moran's arms. Go. Still staring, Moran slowly lowered his lashes and patted Shimon gingerly on the back. The evening breeze tousled his bangs, obscuring his handsome face. What expression Moran wore, only heaven knew. A long time later, when the pathetic lightweight Shimon had fallen asleep snoring in his arms, Moran finally spoke, voice rough. "Shimon, I'm sorry. I'm not worthy to be your Gogo." Damn. Wow, I was not at all prepared for that. Okay, let me quickly take a sip of tea before we continue. Shimon can't fathom real hunger. Yeah, it is very interesting to see the very stark contrast between their upbringings. And I think it gives you a glimpse into why Shimon treats him as callously as he does and how much he struggles to understand Moran's point of view. So a lot of what he does, even though it doesn't okay what he does, it does at least make many of his remarks feel less malicious in hindsight. Okay, on to the next chapter we go. Chapter 192. Shizun gave me my life. Ooh, okay. On the last day of Chuaning's seclusion, an uninvited guest arrived at Session Peak. While Moran was helping Chuaning dress bright and early, a quick rapping came on the doors of the Redwoods Pavilion. After 10 days of cultivating in a deep trance, Chuaning was still woozy and disorientated. He rather indifferently said, "Please come in." Moran snorted. "What are you laughing at?" Shizun set barriers at the door. Other than myself, Shumeng, and the others, who else could come in? Only then did Chuaning remember the spells and lift a hand to release them. A panicked messenger disciple hurtled in like a headless chicken, smelling strongly of wine. "Bad news, Yu Hong Elder. A powerful demon's making a mess at Loyalty Hall." Okay. Ran and Chuaning exchanged a quick look and rushed without delay. They were still some distance away when Moran caught sight of a massive board spinning in circles in the courtyard. A crowd of elders and disciples watched in helpless exasperation. A powerful demon? Moran asked. The fat board gurgled. At sight of Chuaning and Moran, Zhuzhen Yong's eyes brightened. He slapped his thigh. Ah, you hung. You opened and you opened. You woke up. I don't know where that came from, sorry. You woke up in the nick of time. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Chuaning was baffled, but his features were so accustomed to indifference that even bewilderment made him look wise. Hmm? Another demon that escaped the golden drum tower. Zhu Yong grimaced, both amused and disgruntled. It won't leave. The gourd of debauchery. Oh, hell. That just sounds like something you would have in one of the extras and it would turn out to be an absolute disaster. Chuaning looked up at the gargantuan board rampaging through the courtyard. It was as tall as two men and gleamed with a pearly glow. Pink fog and gouts of wine spewed from its mouth. Indeed, this was the legendary demon board of debauchery. It's harmless, Chuaning said, but it forces you to drink. This was true. The gourd was presently chasing a group of disciples, emitting a series of incomprehensible gurgles. Whenever it caught one, a hole would appear in its side, from which it sprayed wine into a victim's mouth. I'm glad it isn't the kind of debauchery that's usually connected with that word. It's the food kind, so that's good. Meat bun is meat bunning. That is indeed a thing. Chuaning was speechless. Apparently, it only concedes to people with a better tolerance than itself. Zhu Yong added pitiably, Yu could you? They're like, oh, thank goodness you're awake so you can drink yourself into a coma because you have the best tolerance out of all of us. Oh my goodness. Chuaning raised a hand to his temple as if his head ached already. Leaping down to the courtyard, he summoned Tianwen and held the willow vine out in front of the gourd. Stop, he said. I'll drink with you. The fat gourd wobbled in delight. An opening immediately appeared and shot a stream of wine at Chuaning's elegant face. Chuaning dodged it. A flare of golden light, and Tianwen had the fat gourd tightly bound. Why don't you try it another way? Do you have cups? Glug glug. It spat a small gourd ladle out of the opening, filled with clear wine. Under the watchful eye of the crowd, Chuaning sat down and started drinking with a gourd of debauchery. Glug glug spat. Not bad, give me another. Splash. Do you have any pearl blossom white? Splish splash. Oh my goodness, not these onomatopoeias. Yoo-hoo. Shizun cried out in wonder. Can you tell what it's saying? Chuaning replied. I understand something of the speech of this type of demon. Splash, said the board. Moran smiled. Shizun, what did it say? It's just chatting. It said it hasn't seen the sun for a long time. The gourd seemed ecstatic, and for whatever reason, it seemed to also understand Chuaning. It sidled over to pour him another brimming ladleful, all solicitously. Oh my goodness. Is it pearl blossom white this time? Splash. I don't like newer home. Bush. The gourd dumped it out and poured another. Everyone looked on in stunned silence. The human demon deer drank until noon, the human sober, and the demon in high spirits. As the day wore on, the crowd before Loyalty Hall swelled. Even Shumeng and Shimei came to see. As soon as Moran saw Shimei, he recalled their earlier misunderstanding. Guilt weighed on him, and he immediately thought to apologize. But the second Shimei caught sight of him, he turned and left. You know, like, you guys live in the same place. You could go and seek him out and apologize. Immortal Gaga is about to be wasted for 10 days straight. I would have expected Chuanin to have Langwanji level tournaments. Yeah, I think I expected that as well originally, which is, I wonder why, if that's not part of why Meat Bun decided to subvert that trope, is because usually the one that's more stoic is usually the one who ends up having a terrible alcohol tolerance. If I think about Lang Wanji and also Shinwei from Guardian, though I don't know, I can't remember if that was just in the series or if that was in the novels as well. Sorry. Noticed too, and Albert Moran. I think he's still upset. Then what do I do? Moran said morosely. Go talk to him. You two are at odds, and I'm caught in the middle. I can't do anything. Shimon said, Go on. It's not like you're helping here anyway. Moran glanced at Chuaning, still exchanging toast with the wine board. Nothing serious was going to happen without him. Then I'll go find Shimei. Stay here and watch over Shizun. If anything happens, you have to tell me right away. It didn't take long for Moran to catch up. Upon reaching the dancing sword platform, Moran called out, Shimei. There was no response. Shimei. Finally, Shimei came to a stop and turned, looking at him consideringly. Aran, what is it? Nothing. Moran waved his hands, frowning. I just wanted to say, what happened last time? It was all my fault. What time are you referring to? Oh! That means that Shimei feels there's multiple times. That's not good. Moran froze, eyes widening. What? Shimei's expression remained blandly gentle. As the wind picked up, he tucked a lock of hair behind his ear. Do you mean the time you thought I was going to hurt Shizun at the Red List Pavilion? Or the time you two couldn't sit with me during the dinner in Yuliang village? Or even earlier, when Shizun first woke up and I met you in the Wuchang Tower to bring you wine and you barely spoke to me the whole meal? Which one do you mean? Well, it's been building up for a while, Shimei, it seems. You know, like, I understand that some of this is definitely Moran's fault, but you can't expect him to improve his actions if you don't communicate your needs. Martian Way's soul literally left his body when he drank. Oh, goodness. Mm. Moran hadn't expected him to dredge up events that had happened so long ago. For a moment, he was too dazed to reply. You, you've been angry with me all this time? Shimei shook his head. I wouldn't say angry, but yes, it bothered me. Moran said nothing. Aran, you've been pushing me away since Shizun came back to life. At this, Moran didn't know what to say. He was pushing Shimei away. They had once been so close, even Chuaning could see it clear as day. But it had always felt like something was missing. The vague understanding they'd shared when they were young had never been explicitly addressed. Later, when Moran recognized his true feelings, he didn't know how to handle his relationship with Shimei. He'd contemplated telling Shimei outright, but discarded the idea. He had never confessed to Shimei. nor was he entirely sure of the nature of Sinead's feelings for him. If he rashly ran out and said he wanted to cut any romantic ties, would it not be too abrupt, too presumptuous? In the end, he had decided to let time fade whatever it was they'd shared. Shimei watched him quietly for a while before continuing. When you first came to Surgeon Peak, I told you that I too was an orphan who didn't have many friends, and that from then on we'd be family. Hmm. So why have you changed? Moran was devastated. He suddenly felt lost. Why had he alienated Shimei so? Had he and Shimei exchanged more than 100 words since his return from the ghost realm? They'd once been inseparable, but now they were drifting apart. Perhaps he'd really overdone it. I'm sorry, he said. There's nothing to be sorry for. Shimei looked away. Forget it. It's fine. You can't complain about something and then say, oh, there's nothing to be sorry for. Clearly, there is something to be sorry for. Like, don't be angry. If you're angry, I'll feel awful too. You've always been good to me. May finally showed him a faint smile. I'm good to you, but how does that compare to sin? That's different. I don't like Moran's response either, the don't be angry. If you're angry, I'll feel awful too. Like, he has a right to be angry, but then, rather just tell him, you can be angry, just don't hide your feelings or pretend to be fine, because that's, again, he has a right to be angry, and it should be okay for Moran to feel bad about something, because he did technically do something wrong, actually a lot more than he realized. Anyway, Shimei gazed out towards the dusky mountains in the distance. You once told me I was good to you, that I'd bought you a lot of warmth. What about Shizun? He gave me my life, Moran said. It was a long time before Shimei spoke. I understand. Moran's heart ached terribly at the sight of him like this. There's nothing to compare anyway. Everyone is different. Shimei didn't let him finish. He turned the wind at his back and patted Moran's chest. It's okay. You don't need to explain. I know what you mean. To be honest, I'm not that petty, but I really was hurt that you could think that of me. Hmm. Let's start fresh. It's water under the bridge. This feels too easy for me, and maybe it's just because of the different ways that people treat disagreements. But considering how long this has clearly been stewing for him, it feels hard to believe that he'd be willing to so quickly let it go. I'd feel more reassured about the sincerity of his words if he had said, just give me a few days, but I promise we will get back to being friends or, whatever. Moran's eyes were dark and gleaming. After a beat, he nodded and said gratefully, okay. Leaning against the jade railing of the dancing sword pavilion, Shimei looked especially tall and slender. He gazed out at the leaves fluttering below. The sun stretched until Moran said, let's head back. What do you want to say? What did you want to say back then? They spoke at the same time. Moran was confused. Back when? Before the heavenly rift, Shimei said. Only then did Moran recall the confession he'd left half-made at Butterfly Town. He never finished. I don't know what you want to say. May I ask what it is now? As Moran opened his mouth to answer, they heard a massive crash from the direction of Loyalty Hall. Both their faces paled. Shizun's over there, Moran explained. Exclaimed. Shimei had also lost his appetite for idle chatter. Let's hurry back. They turned and raced back towards the main compound, where they found yet another fat gourd in the wide courtyard of Loyalty Hall. What the hell is this? Moran blurted. Shizhen Yong covered his face. Another gourd of debauchery. That doesn't seem fair. How many are there? Yeah, okay, the same question. There we go. Two. One for wine and one for lust. Okay, that unfortunately kind of makes sense. Damn it. They grow in pairs from the same stem. Shu Zhengyong looked like his head was about to explode. The one testing Yu Heng's tolerance is just the younger brother. Now the older one's here too. I mean, is a lasting pro at this point, because I feel like if there's one person who could take the gourd on, it would be Moran. Moran's face was inscrutable as he worked through this new information. If the wine gourd likes to drink, then the last gourd. He turned, face ashen, towards that what? Spinning pink gourd. Pink? Okay. The lust gourd knows every trick of seduction on earth, Zhu Zhengyong said in deep embarrassment. It only obeys the orders of the purest people. Moran turned and shouted, Schumann! Like, yes, my asexual friend over there, come quickly. Oh my goodness. This hurts. Yeah. Why isn't Shimeng here? Shimei asked in confusion. Where is he? Zhu Zhengyong pointed at the last board. He's already inside the uh he's already inside undergoing the trial. He said he wanted to help Yu Heng. Moran breathed a sigh of relief. That takes care of that then. If Yu Heng doesn't count as pure, no one else on earth does. Oh, great boom. They watched as Shumeng was unceremoniously ejected from the mouth of the last board and landed sprawling in the crowd. Chuaning, still drinking with the wine board, glanced over at the commotion. What happened? Blurted Shimei. Don't tell me that even the young master, someone else exclaimed. Shimon stumbled to his feet, coughing up a storm with his face flushed red. His eyes showed fierce embarrassment as he howled at the gourd. You stupid demon! You're so freaking shameless! Looking back and forth between them, Moran realized Shimon was somehow in wedding robes of red and gold. He couldn't keep the amusement out of his voice as he asked, What happened? Shu Jingyong put a hand over his face, unable to utter a single word. I've heard of this, Shimei said. The last gourd isn't actually lustful. It's a hopeless romantic. It wants to marry the person with the cleanest and most adoring heart in the world to someone who has no one else in their heart. Apparently, those sucked into the gourd find themselves in a wedding chamber. Then what? The gourd's primordial spirit transforms into the image of a veiled bride or groom. Their victim needs to remove the veil with their own hands. Will they be blessed with the sight of the last boy's true face? Of course not. What they see depends on each individual. If there's someone they love, they see the person's face. If they don't, but are lustful, I hear they'll see Shimei cleared his throat. A stunning man or woman without a stitch of clothing. Only the truly pure-hearted will see the lust for its original form. Interesting. Okay, so this appears to maybe still be the right task for an asexual, because an asexual is not necessarily aromantic. So I feel like that could still work, but for some weird reason, I feel Moran is gonna end up being the one, even though it's gonna have to be some serious loophole jumping there. Mm. Glanced in some disbelief at Chimeng. So angry, smoke was practically rising from his ears. Then what did Chimeng see? There was no way Chimeng was in love with someone, but Moran refused to believe Chimeng would have seen some nude man or woman either. Yet Chimeng had indeed been thrown out by the last gourd, and it was clear from the way the gourd was bouncing and rolling around that Chimeng had been an object of immense entertainment. Shimei couldn't bear to watch. In an attempt to spare Shimon some embarrassment, he began. The last gourd must have made a mistake. He never finished. Shimon had unsheathed a long chain and pointed it at the gourd. You turned me. You turned into meat. I'm sorry, guys. That was oh my word. That was unexpected. That was okay. Let me try and get through this. You turned into me to seduce me? He hollered. Dressed an illusion of me in woman's clothes. Dare you slander me? Shimon is truly the embodiment of love yourself. I can't. The watching disciples of Sishing Peak, Moran included, all fell silent, trying to hold back their laughter. But it couldn't last. Falls burst from the crowd. The narcissistic Shizun, the peacock in love with his own tail, had become the bride the last gourd created. When Shumung lifted the veil, he had seen his own made-up face. Makes sense when you think about it. Moran was trying his best not to laugh too loudly. He nodded. I'm sure Shumung would be very pretty as a girl. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that actually happened. Before Moran doubled over with laughter, he heard Zhengyong shout once more, exasperated. Yuheng, once you've dealt with the wine board, why don't you handle this one? Uh, um, um, I don't think that's gonna work. But before we move on, let's just quickly appreciate how amazing Shimeng looks in this. I actually kind of love it, not gonna lie. These illustrations really are some of my favorites. Okay, wow, time flies. I see we are past the hour, so I think I'm quickly gonna do my 10-minute break now, and then we will be back at around 13 minutes past to continue for the remainder of the hour. accidentally stop the stream. That would not have been good. Okay. I hope the audio is good again. Following along, we were on page 153, chapter 103. Okay, thank you. Shizun, did you make me your wife? Oh, that could go in so many different directions. The three purest and most arrogant people on Sishan Peak were Shumeng, the Tan Lang Elder, and Chua Ning. Shumeng had already been tossed out by the lust god, and the Tan Lang Elder hadn't always been celibate. He once had a wife, but her health had been poor, and she'd passed not long after the wedding. It was said the Tan Lang Elder learned the healing arts so he'd never again lose those he cherished to illness, which only left Chuaning. Okay, but like we have a problem because Moran like quote unquote corrupted Chuaning, so the young elder has this in the bag. Definitely. If the young master can't handle it, we'll have to rely on the young master's Shizun. These words needled Moran, but he couldn't do a thing. He scrambled for a random solution and turned to Shi Jingyong. Why don't I give it a try? Shi Jingyong looked him up and down before tactfully replying, Renar, the first condition to subdue the last god is virginity. Oh, oh damn. Moran didn't offer again. Across the courtyard, Chuaning had successfully drunk the wine gourd under the table. It toppled over with a thunk. When the smoke cleared, only a small jade green gourd remained. Crescent on the ground? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Zhu Jingyong scooped up the little wine gourd and stowed it away in his Jin Kun pouch, delighted. Huh, there's really no one like the young elder. Here, have a go at the last gourd next. I'm worried. I feel like I'm gonna need more pillows than I have at present for this. Chuaning's expression was unchanged, but he lowered his lashes, refusing to meet Xu Jingyong's eyes. No thanks. Xu Jingyong gaped at him. It wasn't just him. The whole assembly of the disciples and elders stood stunned. Why? I've had too much to drink. I'm tired. Xu Jingyong wasn't stupid. It was no exaggeration to call Chuaning a man who could down 1,000 cups. He stared long and hard at that aloof man in white until Chuaning lost patience and turned away with a flick of his sleeves. Suddenly it dawned on Xu Jingyong, who blurted, Yuheng, don't tell me you've. Chuaning's ears flushed crimson. He turned back in a fury, Phoenix eyes spitting sparks. What nonsense are you speaking? Xu Jingyong's lips couldn't even shape the words, had sex. Impossible, he thought. Who was Chuaning? Yuheng of the night sky, the Baidu immortal. If he had any solicitous encounters, no. Who would believe it? Shi Jingyong slapped his own thigh. Then give it a try. Otherwise the world will keep wandering around here. It'll annoy us to death even if it doesn't attack anyone. The gourds of debauchery have thick skin. You couldn't cut through it even if you hacked at them for years at a time. Oh, I didn't realize they meant it like literally, like they're hard to kill. I thought it meant like I don't know how to even explain it. Sorry, my brain is tired. Um, face. Chuaning scanned the crowd. The disciples all looked back at him eagerly. save for Moran, who watched him with hot guilt he couldn't quite hide. Chuaning swore inwardly, but he was indeed stuck. If he left now with the sweep of his sleeves, there'd be talk tomorrow. After some thought, he said, I'll give it a try then. In the next moment, the last gourd sucked Chuaning into the hollow middle, spinning in place. The disciples of Shizun Peak were certain the last gourd would submit to Chuaning. Moran alone knew the truth. On a rainy night not long ago, in the dark little room of the Wuchang Town Inn, on that bed where mouths met and skin brushed, he had despoiled the purest cultivator in the world with his own hands. I had to not only see what is about to play out here, but also see people's reactions when he inevitably fails. I'm kind of hoping that for some weird reason he doesn't fail. Like his love for Moran is so effervescence is not the right word in this context, but like it's pure in its own way. Like it's so selfless. There we go. That's what I was trying to go for. That it somehow make means there's a loophole. What happened to work to make it cultivate instance? There's some questions that we should not ask. I'm truly scared. If you want to go the pure route, I'd probably just spend one too many nights on rooftops between lovers. But yeah. Chuaning opened his eyes. Contained within the gourd was a dreamlike world, just as the legend described. A wedding chamber laid inside, red candles shining bright and red canopies hanging low. As he stepped to the center of the chamber, he saw a rosewood bed covered with thick blankets and peanuts. Every detail was rendered, from the coverlets to the hangings. An old woman stood at the doorway, obviously an avatar of the cord. Her hair was jade green, and her grin revealed teeth the same hue. Channing knew he had no hope of defeating the last cord, and preferred not to waste his breath. Taking a few steps toward the old lady, he said, Grandmother, you can send me out now. I have no need to lift the veil. The old lady smiled. She mumbled. Channing blinked. He hadn't expected the old woman wouldn't understand human speech. Wasn't as intelligent as the wine god and couldn't understand Channing's intentions. He had no choice. He took a breath and braced himself, then turned to the bed. A person sat at the foot, dressed like a bride in black upper robes, painted with dragons and crimson skirts embroidered with phoenix feathers. His feet were bare, and his head was veiled, hiding his face. The old lady tottered closer. There was a small pop as smoke rose from her hand and transformed into a jade Rui scepter. She handed it to Chuaning and gestured for him to approach the bed. The idea of Moran dressed in a bridal gown hardly bore thinking about. The thought repelled him. But when he remembered how he himself had made a ghost bride at the butterfly town, he realized he would be missing a unique opportunity to see Moran looking silly if he didn't take a peek. That's oddly sweet. More than distaste was More than distaste was at stake. He would never forgive himself for missing such a chance. Face green tinged, Chuaning took a deep breath. He stepped forward. The old woman seemed to be getting impatient. I know, don't worry. He lifted the scepter and let the veil fall back. Chuaning's eyes widened slightly. You're In the crimson light of the canopy, a man in a beaded crown looked up. The candlelight played over his pale yet handsome face, the dark eyes filled with mocking ridicule. He tilted his chin to smile up at Chuaning. Chuaning froze. Oh no, it's gonna be the horrible Moran, the Moran from his dreams, the one we don't like, the one that's from the first timeline. Oh, oh, I failed with my tea making. It's not just that there's no sugar in it. It's not my tea. Damn it, I messed it up. Okay, sorry. Um, was indeed Moran, but his face was unnaturally pallid, his complexion sickly. On the whole, his appearance bizarre. Ah, it looks like Running truly can't forget this rainbow one. Running's face must have shown his shock. The man reached out and grabbed his wrist. His touch was ice cold, and the look he pinned Chuaning with was a vulture's cruel glare. Moran grinned, but his smile was eerie. It held no warmth. This venerable one was glad. What was this nonsense? Channing thought with exasperation that this lust gourd must have been locked inside Goldblum's heart so long it lost its mind. Its creations were incomprehensible. Let go, Moran did not. Channing turned to the green-haired old woman, make him let go. He was still speaking when the bride, Moran, shot to his feet. Channing saw the beads of his crown sway and felt a sudden grip around his waist. The world spun, and when he returned to his senses, he'd been pushed down onto the red and gold bed. Moran was bent over him, pinning him beneath his body as he reached down to grab his jaw. Looks like you really enjoyed what the venerable one offered you. The man's hot breath scalded the crook of his neck. You still can't forget me. Look, I kind of hate this right now. He better not do anything to Chuani. Like, I don't want any of the garbage trash fire things that he did to the previous timelines to wanting to carry over into this one. Yes, we will have to deal with the after effects of Chuaning realizing what had been done to him in the past timeline, but I don't want those same scars to be inflicted on him in the present timeline in real time, if that makes sense. Chuaning shoved him away, brows knitted in a frown. The dialogue this last gourd had devised was too outrageous. Moran had always been gentle, courteous, and respectful towards him. Why would he even ever speak like this? Awkward and amused, embarrassed yet helpless, Chuaning evaded his touch, making a wrinkled mess of the bedding. Suddenly, Chuaning narrowed his eyes, looking again at the crimson embroidery on the bed. Realization struck like lightning. The dream. He froze, scarlet rising in his cheeks. This, this was the dream he'd had. Moran had been just like this in those visions, his mouth full of filth and his hands rough and brutal. This wasn't an illusion the last god was creating. Sorry, this wasn't an illusion the last god had created whole cloth, but something drawn from his own unspeakable imaginings. The shameful realization left him mortified. Even the tips of his ears were burnt. He felt a scalding wetness. In his moments of distraction, Moran had started sucking on his earlobe. I don't remember Tash and Jin ever referring to him by that pet name. He stuck his tongue greedily into Chuaning's ear. The sensation drew an involuntary gasp from Chuaning. His voice was hoarse and his ears thick with humiliated tears. Hearing it made him feel beyond disgrace. For some reason, the scene before him felt real, as if he'd been with Moran like this a very long time ago, as if they had tangled together like this, Moran pinning Chuaning to the bed, kissing his neck, his cheeks, his ear, his movements rough and urgent. Panicked and furious, even the ends of Chuaning's eyes had gone red. He struggled uselessly to break free until Moran's mouth nearly landed on his own. Boom! The illusionary Moran froze, staring disbelievingly at Chuaning. Seizing his chance, Chuaning pushed him aside. Golden light shone in his hands. Tianwen cracked to life and slammed down on Moran in the illusion. The sight of the golden willow vine left Moran stupefied. You're, he blurted. You're. Tianwen lashed down again, showing the sparks. Moran took the blow without fighting back. He stared, eyes wide in abject shock. A faint haze of smoke rose. The green old woman disappeared, as did the illusionary Moran. Within the wedding chamber knelt a green-haired and pointy-eared young man with exquisite features whom Chuaning can recognize. I don't think that was Moran, like an illusionary Moran speaking, even though it would have made sense within the context of like Tash and Jun being shocked by Chuaning's rebellion. I think the gourd recognized Chuaning. Is that possible? Still incandescent with rage, Chuaning rose from the bed, clutching at his gaping nipples. He glared at the little demon with eyes both sensual and furious, his voice like an angered panther's, low and dangerous. Beast, he pushed through gritted teeth. This was the last gourd's true form. It stared at Chuaning, face colorless in shock and fear. It's you. Chuaning whipped around in rage. What do you mean, it's me? The last gourd had been reduced to a trembling mess. It fell to its knees, kowtowing again and again. This junior didn't know it was. It couldn't seem to say Chuaning's name. Flinching, it slammed its head against the ground. Shizun, please forgive me. Shizun, please forgive me. Chuaning eyed the creature. Many years ago, Chuaning had defeated countless demons and spirits on exorcism missions. Tianwen was infamous among their numbers, and several lesser spirits were known to go shocked stiff at the mere sight of him. He hadn't expected the last gourd to be the same. Chuaning recalled Tianwen and rose from his bed, staring down at the young man kowtowing on the floor. Let me out. Yes, yes. The last gourd didn't dare delay. It recited the incantation, and mist exploded from the ground, forcing Chuaning to close his eyes. When the fog cleared and he could see again, he'd returned to the courtyard before Loyalty Hall. The crowd rushed forward and surrounded him. Shizun, are you all right? Nobody does it like you come. Shizun, were you injured? The mist smelled of rotting gourds. Chuaning felt dizzy, and it took him a moment to realize the giant last demon had disappeared. In its place, on the stone slabs before him, lay a little pink gourd. Oh, I'm glad that Chuaning's reputation is going to stand for just a little while longer, even if it's because of a misunderstanding. Still caught in the shame of the illusion, Chuaning wasn't in the mood to elaborate. He turned to Xu Zhengyong. Take both gourds and keep them in the demon-suppressing tower. Okay. Xu Zhengyong's gaze fixed upon Chuaning. He opened his mouth and let it hang, as if hesitant to speak. Chuaning had a bad feeling. What is it? Nothing. Xu Zhengyong's expression certainly said otherwise. Chuaning shifted, realized everyone else was eyeing him with a barely concealed curiosity and amusement. When he turned, he found even Moran watching him with an awkward look, his tanned skin flushed. What? Finally, Chuaning realized what was happening. He looked down at his clothes. At some point, perhaps the second he'd entered the last gourd, vowels, his customary white had been swapped for the set of auspicious embroidered robes like Shumeng's, precisely the sort of clothes worn by when performing wedding vows. Chuaning was left speechless. I guess we did get him in a wedding dress in the first volume, so we can't get an illustration of him that way again, but it would have been nice The story of the young elder defeating demons in wedding garb swiftly made the rounds through all of Shizun Peak. The question most debated by the disciples was, whom had the young elder married inside the gourd? Someone who had their fill of living cheerfully answered, I'm sure it was a gorgeous woman. Someone who, fully ready to die, waggled their brows and added, who knows, it might have been a beautiful man. Someone who cherished their life replied in all seriousness. When he lifted its veil, the elder likely saw the lust god's true form. If he saw anything else, the lust god would have been angered, and he wouldn't have been able to defeat the demon. The group cast disdainful looks at the spiritless coward who cared so much about his continued existence. Shaking their heads, they left it at that. There was one brave warrior on Shizun Peak, however, who feared not death. One gloomy morning, when morning practice was cancelled, Moran snuck into Redlo's pavilion with breakfast to canoodle with Chuaning. After they ate, the man upon whom the masses had bestowed such titles as gorgeous woman and beautiful man took Chuaning's hand with a grin and asked, Shizun, inside the last gourd, did you make me your wife? Trust Moran to say something like that. Chapter 194. Shizun, am I not the runaway you love anymore? Okay. Interesting. Interesting suffix indeed. Okay. Chuaning was too full to deal with such silliness. What's this about a wife? You're a man. How can you say these things without blushing? Moran smiled more brightly. Then, if you didn't make me your wife, did I make you mine? This infuriated Chuaning, and he wasn't just furious, he was ashamed. He couldn't tell this Moran if the shape the last god had taken was that Moran, the pale-skinned phantom who appeared in Chuaning's dreams. Nor could he tell him about the intense, obscene entanglements they'd shared in those visions. As the saying went, humans needed face like trees needed bark. The young elder's dignity was of the greatest importance. Chuaning swept his sleeves aside and said, if you're going to keep babbling, you can show yourself out. You're banned. As expected, Moran came to heel. Pursing his lips, he gazed woefully at Chuaning with dark and shining eyes, then nuzzled his cheek, voice a soft pout. Okay, I won't ask any more questions. Dear Shizun, don't chase me off. Stick with Shizun, don't call me dear. Moran's tender address melted Chuaning's heart. He couldn't bear it. Still, he pushed Moran away, expressionless. Stop with the random names. But just saying Shizun isn't affectionate at all. Is that so? Moran tried to persuade him. Look, it's boring if I call you Shizun in front of others, but also call you Shizun when we're alone. Wouldn't you agree? Chuaning wasn't falling for it. No. Moran tried a different tact, pulling at Chuaning's sleeves as he said, Shizun, Shizun, Shizun. His tone was honey-sweet, raising the hair along Chuaning's spine. At the end of his patience, Chuaning smacked the book against Moran's face. Damn! Shut up. It was a thick tune, but it struck him so lightly it didn't hurt a bit. Moran lowered the book with a smile, revealing the peerlessly handsome face. I worry if I get too used to addressing you this way, I'll do it in front of others by accident. So it's better to use a different term. Chuaning frowned. Don't you think you'll get accustomed to using a different term and use it in front of other people as well? Yeah, I actually feel like sticking to Shizun is a safer option for that very reason. Yeah, I think second, I can't recall there being a third wedding, at least so far. I mean, maybe we'll get an actual third wedding by the end of this, but so far it's been two that I counted. Um, Moran sighed. Why do you never take the bait? Chuaning's hackles rose at that. Displeased, he quickly turned his attention to his own book, refusing to acknowledge the disciples sprawled on the desk, idly blowing at his own bangs. After a few moments of mutual peace, Moran spoke, the picture of dejection. I just wanted some special treatment from Shizun. Hmm? Both Shimei and Shimon call you Shizun. If I also call you Shizun, there's no difference at all. I'm not really asking for much. I just want a different name, something only I can call you. Chuaning set down his brush and turned to him, straightening his spine. Yeah, no, exactly that is what I am imagining. It's not like I'll use it very often. And thick lashes lowered, leaving a smudge of shadow on the bridge of his nose. Only sometimes. Is that still not okay? Chuaning eyed him silently. That's fine. Moran looked crestfallen. I won't. It doesn't matter. And then Chuaning relented. Not even a decade of seniority gave him the strength to endure this young man's incessant cajoling and pouting pleas. As he studied this handsome man who grinned so brightly at his nod of assent, Chuaning suddenly felt he'd been tricked. It seemed he was always the fierce and intimidating one brandishing his claws, yet he always wound up conceding, indulging Moran uh, in every particular. He was like a fish swimming in circles, only to end up taking this bait named Moran in the end. What should I call you? Asked the bait. Whatever you want, Chuaning wearily replied. No, wait, this is very important. Moran racked his brain, but his brain was lacking and rather crude besides. After thinking for some time, he ventured, Baby? No. Chuaning recalled the dreams and couldn't bear it. Chulang? He couldn't abide this either. Face stormy, he asked, Then should I call you Ran Mei? Ah, okay. He, he- huh, you're right. Moran scratched his head with a smile, then furrowed his brows and thought once more. Unfortunately, he had overtaxed what scant inspiration he had and produced something even worse. Oh no, I don't even want to read it. Chulang, baby. That's terrible. Even Moran couldn't take that one seriously. He clapped his hand to his forehead in despair. Thank goodness. I'm just glad that we don't see a return of his terrible naming conventions because I still remember them from the first volume and they were truly heinous, even if they were hilarious. Chuaning smiled against his will. Then stop trying. What's the point of thinking so hard about it? These things have to come naturally. I quite like the Shizun deer. Like I know it doesn't work for him, but I quite like that one. Yet he didn't want to give up. In the end, he grinned. Then I'll think properly about it in the future and come up with the name that suits you best. He grabbed Chuaning from where he'd been tidying the books and pulled him into his lap, his hand on the back of Chuaning's neck. He stared at him for a long time. Uneasy, Chuaning asked, What are you doing? Moran sighed. I can't stop myself, he mumbled, no matter how many times I look. After before he could say more. Moran's mouth moved against his, lips deliciously sweet over the wet heap below. He wrapped the man in his lap, in his arms, as they kissed with consuming adoration. Rain fell in sheets outside, drowning the shameful noises of their lips and tongues. When they parted, Channing blinked open teary eyes. He both wanted to look at Moran and didn't dare. Moran smiled. He knew Channing was thin-skinned. He couldn't help pulling him close to caress him, their heartbeats pounding an interweaving duet. It doesn't matter what I call you. Nothing, Moran said, smiling. Shizun is the best. Channing pillowed his head on Moran's shoulder. There was a sweetness in the sensation, but also a certain precarity. Sitting as he was on Moran's lap, he could vividly feel something hot and hard beneath. He thought smoke must be coming from his ears. After a long pause, he whispered, "Are you really?" Cleared his throat. "It's nothing. I'll help you." Channing's cheeks burned as he said it. "You don't need to." Moran hastily cut him. Shizun has to go to the elders' meeting soon. Channing glanced at the watch clock. "Not for 15 minutes. It should be." "It's not enough," Moran said, awkward. "Huh? I can't come. I can't come that quickly." Channing stared at him. When he understood, he flushed to the roots of his hair. He quickly got up from Moran's lap and took a step back. Then he felt angry with himself, thinking such behavior too cowardly. He stepped forward again. Moran found him adorable. He sat on the chair, hiding nothing. Even with clothes in the way, the bulge in his pants was still shockingly ferocious, capable of taking a man's life. "Damn! You're asking a lot of Chuaning." "I'll stop teasing." Moran caught Chuaning's wrist. He wanted to pull him close and kiss his mouth again, but Chuaning's taste was so tempting that he was afraid a single indulgence would destroy his restraint. So he only held Chuaning's hand. He brought it to his lips, eyes fixed on Chuaning until the moment he lowered his lashes and kissed it sincerely. Moran licked back Chuaning's hand. "Shizun, you're so sweet." Oh, really living up to his husky name. This version of Moran every year would be named the year of wanting. Yeah, no, it would literally just be well, in essence, it would just be the chapter titles, I feel. The rain fell on Sichuan for another 2 weeks before the clouds broke apart for a clear, sunny day. Moran picked through the puddles in the bamboo forest, some shallow and some deep. Morning practice was back on today, but Chuaning hadn't appeared. A quick inquiry located him in the backwoods, where he had apparently gone to teach a few of Shunji's thicker disciples how to toss throwing stars. Moran heard Chuaning's stern voice before he saw the practice grounds. "You need to relax your hands. Hold the star between your index and right finger. Concentrate your spiritual energy in your fingertips. When the light glows gold, release it at your target." Shriek! The sound alone told Moran the disciples had failed. They sighed piteously. "Man, this is so hard. Elder, could you show us again?" Then the light turned gold. The throwing stars will glow hot and, sorry, when the light turns gold, the throwing stars will grow hot to the touch. Drunken said, "Feel for it. Don't try to look." "Can you hit your target without looking?" A cheerful voice answered from behind him. "Of course you can." Drunken turned. "What are you doing here?" "More Shishun," the new disciples chorused. Among them was an exceptionally pretty female disciple. She flushed when she caught sight of Moran, hastily making her bows along with the rest. Sorry, I'm struggling to focus now. Moran scarcely acknowledged Shenji's disciples as he walked straight up to Chuaning. "Shizun, why didn't you put on a blindfold and show them how it's done?" Chuaning hesitated. "Okay." Permission granted, Moran took down his own pale purple hair ribbon, 3 fingers wide, and laid it across Chuaning's eyes. He tied it tightly, but not painfully so. The silk of the ribbon, like flowing water, its ends danced in the breeze. Throwing star, Chuaning said. One of the Shinji elder's disciples came up and handed their throwing stars to Chuaning. 3. Chuaning continued. Huh? Confused, the disciple retrieved an additional 2 stars from their weapon pouch and handed them to Chuaning. Chuaning stroked pale, slender fingers over the cold nasal surface, pursing his lips. Without words or pause, stars shot from between his fingers with a flick of his wrist and a momentary flash. Cling clang. Their collision rang out. Right on target. Right on bullseye. But only one of them? Chuaning said nothing, but Moran blindly replied, the other 2 are on the targets behind you. The new disciple turned to look in disbelief. The remaining 2 stars, one on either side, were stuck deep in their exact center, with the targets in complete opposite directions. Morning sunlight spilled down through the rustling bamboo forest. Shenji's disciples were stunned speechless. Chuaning raised his hand to remove the blindfold, revealing half-lit phoenix eyes and fluttering lashes. He handed the ribbon back to Moran. The first sound you hear was the 3 throwing stars colliding in midair. Control your spiritual energy properly, and you can make 2 of them ricochet and fly in opposite directions. In battle, you can use this to catch your opponent off guard and take first strike advantage. That's actually really cool, and I like that it really feels like the way a teacher would say it. The disciples exchanged glances. One youth, face shiny with anticipation, cried, Elder, how do we learn this? Is there a trick to it? Moran, Chuaning said, show them your hands. Moran held them out with a smile. The disciples crowded around him, shoving at each other in an attempt to figure out what trick would be revealed to them. After stirring for a long while, they hadn't figured out a thing. But that female cultivator's heart was pounding, her eyes bright. She and her friends were all new to the sect. They hadn't yet reached a focused state of mind, and often went down the mountain to buy books for pleasure reading. They too had perused that goodness knows what ranking Chuaning had once read. When the girls had seen the size rankings, they'd been scandalized, giggling as they nudged and goaded one another. But their bashfulness didn't stop them from discussing the contents in whispers back in the disciples' quarters. I heard the longer a man's fingers are, the larger that thing is. I was wondering how she was focusing on that in this current situation, but now I see the connection in her mind. Said one feisty Shiji with an ample chest and the courage to match. When I get the chance, I'll sneak behind Mo Shishun at Mengpo Hall. I want to see how big his hands are. Later, that Shiji really did carry out her plan. In order to line up behind Moran, she'd run so fast she accidentally knocked over a bowl of hot soup and spilled half of it on her query. Her lips parted in shock and embarrassment. As she stood, shaken, a fine-boned hand picked up her spilled bowl and placed it back on the counter before handing her a new one. Careful, it's a shame to waste good food. His low and husky voice left her unable to so much as lift her head. Her cheeks flamed red, both her face and the bowl steaming. Throughout the entire episode, she'd only dared to peek at Moran at his waist, well-muscled and trim, at his lapels, which framed his broad chest, and of course, she snuck the most glances at his hands. Exquisite. She returned unable to describe those hands even with a dictionary worth of praise. This was the only worthy descriptor. All the Shimei in the room had fallen silent, pursing their lips. Their hearts were ablaze, kindled with wild and suggestive imaginings. In the presence, a chilling voice broke through the female disciple's reverie. What have you noticed? Elder, please forgive me, another disciple said. This disciple is stupid and has not noticed anything. Mo Shishong's hands look particularly powerful. Everyone made their guess, but when it was her turn, her mind went blank. She faltered, cheeks crimson. His fingers are very long. Moran was stunned. What on earth were these youths looking at? He pulled his hands back and scratched his head, turning to Chuaning, wondering if there's scars on his hands that, show how much he had to practice before he could do that. Chuaning might not know what was meant by the comments about Moran's fingers, but he wasn't stupid. One glance at the female disciple's blushing face told him it was nothing good. His face darkened and he swept his sleeve back. What the hell are you looking at? His visible displeasure frightened the disciples into bowing their heads. Moran didn't want Chuaning to be called harsh. Sensing the building tension, he smiled and volunteered the answer. It's calloused. He shot a look at Chuaning and continued, scraping your fingertips bloody, letting the calluses form, then scraping them bloody again. After about 100 times, you'll be able to accurately control your spiritual energy. There is no shortcut. Chuaning taught them until noon, by which time most of the disciples had more or less grasped the basics. Then it was time for him to take his leave. These were someone else's disciples, after all. Some pointers were fine, but teaching them too much detail might offend the Shenji elder. Chuaning was no longer a 15-year-old teenager who'd just come down from the mountain. He'd finally grasped the intricacies of such social rules. He and Moran left the bamboo forest and arrived at Naiha Bridge. They crossed it together, shoulder to shoulder. Beneath their trailing sleeves, the backs of their hands brushed lightly with every step. It was a fleeting touch, but it made their hearts go soft and melt, revealing the tenderest sprouts of spring. There was no one around. Moran finally reached out and interlaced his fingers with Chuaning's. Though they'd have to let go very soon, both of their ears flushed pink, their throats dry and hot. Ever since that rainy night in Wuchang town, they'd had hardly any time alone together. Even during their infrequent trysts at the Red Lotus Pavilion, they worried constantly about Shizun suddenly popping in unannounced. At this point, the momentary touch of the hands was enough to stir the flames in Moran's chest. Shizun, he murmured, tonight, can we go? He was still speaking when he saw someone running towards them. Moran swiftly straightened to his full height, pressed his lips together, and fell silent, stepping to one side. The newcomer hadn't noticed anything amiss. When they reached them, they bowed their way forward and said, Young elder, there is an urgent matter. The sect leader requests your presence in Royalty Hall at once. What is it? Chuaning asked. Guests have come, bringing important information relating to Shu Shuangling. Shu Zhangmen can't make the final decision on his own. Sorry, it's because I don't have anything to bring now. So he called all the elders over in the morning for a discussion. You were the last one. The name Shu Shuangling drove all thoughts of affection from Chuaning's mind. He rushed straight for Royalty Hall. I'm kind of hoping it's what's that guy's name? The guy that was so haughty and was supposed to marry Song Chitong but didn't. That guy, and then the female disciple who was pretending to be a man and was is his best friend. I'm hoping it's those two, but I don't want to get my hopes up at the same time. Moran followed a step behind. Wait for me. I fought Shizun before. Maybe I can help. The two leapt swiftly with Qinggong and soon arrived at Loyalty Hall. When they pushed open Nanggongso, is that his name? Pushed open the door. They were met with silence. Aside from Shizhen Yong and the elders, 2 others stood within the hall, covered in blood. Oh no. Moran's gaze fell upon a familiar scabbard on one of their backs. After a moment, his eyes widened in shock and his face instantly paled. Ye Wangxi? That is the female disciple, right? I'm not thinking of the wrong people here. Covered in blood, that is not the way I was hoping we would see them again, but if they're alive, that's all that matters for now. Okay. So we are at the end of a chapter, which is perfect because we are also at the end of an hour, so I want to stop here. And we are starting on chapter, sorry, why am I struggling so much now? We're starting on chapter 195, page 175 on Thursday, usual time, and hopefully I will not be messing my tea up then, and I will not sound like I'm sounding right now, so sorry about that, but I hope the reading was still bearable. And yeah, I'm kind of glad that we got a little bit of a reprieve from the very intense scenes that we had in the last one. It was good to kind of just have a more subtle, still ship filled, but in a different way kind of few chapters. So I really like that. And yeah, I will see you guys on Thursday. 再见。